something, yeah. You go kitty bessin', kitty bessin', kitty bessin'. Tropicana, baby, Tropicana, baby, baby.
Boys on the bar. We up next.
Tropicana by Flash and Show Them Camp. 39 minutes gone past the hour of 12 p.m. This beautiful media rendezvous at EKU 91.1 FM. Mindful Monday. Okay, right now it's time for Campus Crocs. You know when the clock hits 12:35, it is always time for Campus Crocs. You know what I mean? And right now I'm not alone in the studio. First of all, let me quickly introduce myself. I am Orisha Jemi Noyo Ekuyashimi. Jimmy for short, but you can call me Mr. Cool Car Man Collected, aka Mr. Triple C, like they call me, baby. You know what I mean? And I'm not in the studio, like I said, alone. I'm with Juliet, if she wants to introduce herself, short and sweet, like she always does. Juliet. Okay. Juliet is having some problems, some troubles. But go ahead, Juliet. Okay, Juliet. Whenever you're ready right now. Don't worry about it. Just introduce yourself, Juliet.
Okay. Well, I'm still my humble self on the show today. Juliet, simple and short.
Okay, Juliet, simple and short. Right now on Campus Crocs, we want to talk about a very familiar topic on the show about examinations. You know what I mean? You know, people have different patterns that they use in preparing for the examinations. I had mine, you know, and I'm sure even people who are in school right now have theirs, right? Me and Juliet briefly talked about it before we went on that. Before we left, we finished wrapped up the program that we had this morning on Beyond Borders and National Dialogue, you know, and we said we're going to talk about how people prepare for examinations in school and tests, you know, tertiary institution, secondary schools and primary schools. You know what I mean? So that is what we're talking about today on the show on Campus Crocs. Different preparation patterns for examinations. So Juliet, before we talk about the good ones or the best ones, right? Let me know how was your preparation pattern in school when it came to when it was time for examinations. You can start from when you were in secondary school to your university. Anyone you want to start from is okay.
Okay, let me start from secondary school. You know, secondary school, you cannot compare it to university.
True.
So, secondary school period, that time is, once it's exam period, that's when I personally start reading.
When it's examination period.
Examination period, that's when I start reading.
Okay.
Yes. But it was not like that in university.
Okay.
University, because you have a lot of courses going on, you are doing ahead. So what I do is during lectures, I try as much as possible to go through what was taught for that day. Or when I get home, I just glance through to try to remember what I was taught compared to secondary school. So it was quite easy for me that way to be able to study during exam period.
Okay, so that was for you personally, though. Well,
Yeah.
what do you think is the best way to prepare for examinations, though, if we're being honest?
It depends on what works for individual. There are some people that while they are teaching in school, in class, what they do is they jot down some important points that will help them. Yes, that's worked for some people. While some people, it might be like a day or two to their exam. That's when they start reading. Some can even be like a night before, and they try to assimilate.
That is actually me, though. That is me. Sadly, that is me. A night before is actually me. That is what I do when it's time for. I'm not proud of it. Like I said during the last program that we had, when it's time for examinations, it's always a night before or a day before that I start to read. It's not a good habit. I'm not saying this out there for people or students who are listening to me right now to imbibe, want to practice. It's not a good habit at all. Reading when it's one day to the examination or a night to the examination, it's a terrible habit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but it actually worked for me. because I always found reading boring, personally speaking. In fact, I was an unserious student in school. I always say this every time. I was an unserious student in school, but I hardly failed. I'm not trying to brag, but I'm just saying, why are you looking at me like
But to
that?
me, I'll just say the best thing to do is just after every lecture. For that
The
day,
thing
just try and jot out.
exactly.
Yeah,
That
jot
actually makes
down
more
the things,
sense.
yes.
It makes you assimilate more. It makes you understand more what you just learned. So there was a time I pretended to be a serious student, I tried to be a serious student, and what you just said, I did it. I jotted things down, after each lecture, and I realized that subsequently, when I was trying to read for examination or any exam at all, or any paper, it was very easy for me to understand and remember. It was very easy for me to assimilate completely. So that method you just talked about is very, very helpful. Jotting things down after each lecture, or even while the lecture is going on. When the lecturer is talking, you jot things down.
Just jot it down, just the way you understand what the lecturer is talking about. So by the time when it's time for exams, you will be able to understand that this is how I understand what is being taught in class. It is very, very easy like that.
I wanna ask you something. When it comes to examination, there's some lecturers who say what's it called now, verbatim, like stating word for word. What do you think about people who, when they give answers to questions, what do you think about them giving the lecturer and putting down on their paper word for word how it was taught to them or how it was read to them by the lecturer? Do you think it's bad to put your words in exactly the same manner or way that the lecturer gave to you, or do you think it's not a bad thing to put your words in the same way, or should it be like what I'm trying to say is verbatim basically means word for word, no difference. People when they write their examinations, they go verbatim. Some lecturers, they fail some people because of that. I've never seen the reason. I don't know why you will fail somebody who gave you verbatim word for word. The excuse that they make is
I feel they want the student to
in their own way, how they understand
it. Yes,
but still it doesn't mean that what I wrote down, which is verbatim, is wrong. It's some people don't really know how to express themselves in a different way than how that thing was expressed to them by that teacher or lecturer, right? But I've seen people say, I've seen lecturers, live and direct, not even hearsay, I've seen lecturers fail or reduce the mark of students who give them verbatim word for word how the answer was given to them during lecture and all of that. So do you think it's bad for students to write down answers verbatim how it was given to them or read to them or taught to them by lecturers? Do you think it's bad, or do you think it's them not knowing?
Bad. It's not bad. It depends on individual. Like I said, there are some people that cannot put down their own thoughts. They would prefer to write just exactly how the lecturer has put it to them.
True.
While there are some that they would want to, how do I understand this thing? Let me write it down in my own thoughts. So, but that should not mean lecturers should fail students for that. Some lecturers might feel maybe the students writing down exactly as they taught them. Maybe the students copied.
True, or carried exposure to the whole and stuff.
So
that could be a reason.
That's what some lecturers might think.
Okay, so before we wrap up the program, like you said, short and sweet. She's always wanting short and sweet. Okay, before we wrap up the program, we've established the fact, or we've come to the conclusion that the best way to prepare for examination is right from the beginning, from the start of every lecture, jot things down, or after every lecture you just read through, try to understand on your own, not just they give you, you're giving your lecture and then that is the end of it for that day. Well, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I used to jot things down or I used to read after each lecture. No, I didn't at all. When I was done with school lecture, my book is thrown somewhere and that is it for me completely. You know what I mean? So, but I'm going to give good advice because I'm done with school. I didn't fail. I finished with 2-1, right? So it worked for me. Doesn't mean it's going to work for any other person. It might work for you, might not work for you.
Yeah.
But the proper way to prepare for examination is to read after each lecture or jot things down after each lecture. right, Juliet? That is what we're saying.
Yeah, just have your own, like, a separate book. Can be a jotter or anything. So just jot it down. That can even be your own way of preparing for the exam.
True.
Your own personal study.
And sometimes,
you don't have to go to what was taught in lesson. That alone will help you.
Yeah, and even before examinations, when people are cracking their heads and reading back to back, you sometimes you don't even have to do anything because you already know these things right from the onset. Yeah. Okay, that will be all for the program today. Thank you so much, Juliet, for joining me on the show, Campus Crocs. Do not forget, you're still listening to EKU 91.1 FM. It is me, Dave Rendezvous. I remain your not so humble host, Orisha Jemmy Noya Rikuya Shemi Jemmy for short, but you can call me Mr. Cool Carman Collected, aka Mr. Triple C, like they call me, baby. You know what I mean? Right now, I'll be leaving you in the hands of. I want to say leaving you in the hands of. Okay. Today, I'll be playing Skills featuring Imanse, titled "I Did For You." Enjoy the rest of your day, people. And special shout out to a few people. Ajuri, not the Ajuri like you know, it's another Ajuri from an old schoolmate. Dumi, Ajuri, Valerie, Wede. Who else? Ijoma, the rest of there's so many people, Ibiri, all of them. Shout out to you guys. God bless you guys so much for everything that you do. Echo 91.1 FM, the refreshing voice of Nigeria. Skills featuring the machine. I Did For You. Enjoy.